Hello, folks, and welcome back to Make Me a Musical. Woo!
Whoa.
Yeah, today we've got a darker concept than we're used to, but we thought it'd be fun. Andrew, what's our concept today?
Our concept is funerals.
Yeah, we know Fun Home exists, but that's not really about funerals. That's about lesbianism.
Yeah, it's not about funerals, no.
We, like, the idea of funerals, like, there's so many options for us to go, and we gotta kind of narrow it down. Like, in theory, we could do the Death of a Funeral way, where it's, like, about a really awkward funeral and the comedy hijinks that go on there, but I feel like that's the easy answer, Andrew.
Anthony? What the fuck?
Shit. The thing is, I don't even know an Anthony. It's really embarrassing.
Okay.
So instead, we're going to do the funeral business and, like, the financial side of funerals. You know, the money.
All right, I have a pitch.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so I think I want it to be, at first, about a young, like, naive person who's just looking for work, basically. Mm-hmm. And they pick up work in the funeral business. And then she, as she kind of gets introduced to it and it gets more involved in it, it becomes like more and more ruthless, essentially, and we get to the point where she's like scamming like grieving old people and selling them overpriced coffins and like all of this horrible stuff. And I feel like eventually it has to get to a point where either she just completely becomes the bad guy, and we want her to fail, or she changes her mind and dismantles it from the inside in a way.
I think it needs to be, I feel like this is reaching less comedic musical comedy and more active satire. So I think if
that's what I want it to be. I want it to be active satire.
She needs to become the villain, and we will not get the satisfaction of seeing her taken down a peg.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Like, I think the ending is just she founds her own, like, mega funeral home, like, and it's just, like, next to a retirement home or something, and it's just the fucking cycle continues.
Like, it needs to start at a real place and goes into some insaney pants. Like, it needs to start... Okay, so I'm imagining this character. Let's give her a name.
I want to name her, like, Izzy or something like that, named
Izzy.
after Izanami, the Japanese goddess of the underworld.
I love it. Let's do it. Izzy, out of college, no prospects, nothing. And then this guy, a family friend, an uncle. Let's call him Uncle Jay. That feels like a good name. I'm imagining, like, a Michael Keaton type as this guy. Like, a kind of sleazy fella, and he has this like number called like the only thing that never stops paying, which is all about how like two things in life, the two richest people, a tax man and a funeral home owner.
Does he just owns his own funeral home, I'm assuming?
He owns several funeral homes. He like corners the market in this small town. He is like a small enterprise.
Yeah, I like that, because we need a way for her to get in. Because I don't, like, her passion should not be funeral business at the start.
Can I tell you a real fucked up story that this might be too dark for, like, this, but is a true story of things that happened in Detroit?
Sure.
So it is very common in Detroit for women to have babies and, like, stillborn babies and just take them to the funeral home and leave them there and not call back for them again. And what's the funeral home supposed to do about it? They can't legally dispose of the babies without the permission of the parents, who won't answer the calls. So what do you do with it? When you're running out of space, you throw them in like the decks of the ceiling. You throw them in the crawl space. And then the police found like 60 to 70 baby corpses in the ceiling. And apparently some of the ones that weren't found were sold to the local medical school.
Yeah, okay, well that's...
So I'm like, that shows that the funeral business is a business.
Oh, I mean, it absolutely
still there?
is. Yeah, I am still here. What is going on with you right now?
I don't...
Cutting in and out.
I think it's you, honestly.
Okay. Okay,
That's fucked
well,
up, right?
that is a bit too dark, I think,
But it
for this
shows
show.
you like an idea of the kind of fucked up stuff we can do as like a money making side of the funeral home thing. Like we won't go that dark, but like imagine like, hey, we're not gonna see the bottom half of their legs. We could like sell parts of their organs and stuff.
Yeah, I want to start in a more realistic place.
No. The thing is, he starts in like the real thing where he's like selling overpriced caskets to older people, convincing them to like spruce up, like buy up, and then
what
she
I want
takes
is,
it to the fucked up place. She becomes the villain.
what I want to start is she's just like people come in and there's like the first customer, you know, like the really memorable one, and they come in and she just sells them like the bare bones like basic coffin, right?
Yeah.
And that's like and then the uncle character's like, what are you doing? Like, did you see how sad that person was? How much money do you think they would have spent on their loved one? You know? Something like that. And then it like he does a whole number about that aspect, and she gradually is like, you know what? Actually, yeah, it is really easy to take money from these grieving people because they don't want to disappoint their loved ones or whatever. So we just go into this really kind of dark area of like, this is how you profit in the funeral business. You exploit grieving family members.
I agree. I think that's the best way to do it, and that's a good starting point. Does she immediately like, no, that's horrible. We can't be doing that, or is she like, you know what? That's a good point, Uncle Jay.
I think at first she's like, that's terrible, and like, yeah, no, we can't do that. But then like,
she gets her paycheck.
She starts trying it, and she realizes that, yeah, it actually does work, and she gets the paycheck, and she's like, oh.
And then she thinks of ways of monopolizing, like, the different facets of their funeral homes and expanding until they're, like, the only... They own every funeral home in the state. So they can up their prices, and they've got the monopoly, and what are you going to do? Get caskets from someone else?
Yeah, and then this is where the uncle takes a fall, which is where you could do something similar to that story you just told, where the uncle was doing something illegal and he takes a fall for it, but then she gets to take over the whole business.
I think that he has to be like, yo, you've gone too far, and then she's like, well, you left it to me. There has to be that moment where he comes back and is like, oh no, what have you done?
Do you want to do... we could do kind of like the founder or something like that, where she kind of takes it and then drives him out of business with his own stuff.
I think that he needs to like be put on a break. Like he's an older guy, like has like a period of health, and he's like, you know what? Izzy will take over. She knows the ropes. I trust her. And then while he's gone, she like quadruples profits, basically stealing money all the way, destroying like these carcasses and selling pieces of them, like real dark, real morbid shit,
like black market dealings and like maximum exploitation of grieving families and just terrible stuff. You know, I want to do a little more research on the funeral industry, although I do know for a fact that it is very shady.
Yes, it is very shady, and I want to embrace that, but also kind of take it to the levels of satire where it is so extreme.
Yeah, I mean, we want to do kind of like a, oh my goodness, like a sorry to bother you kind of thing.
Yes, like take it like 9 steps removed, and we could do some theatrical stuff where it's like the ghosts of who she's wronged are coming back for her, and she just doesn't give a fuck, like in her dreams, fantasy-wise.
Well, yeah, that could be like a set piece where it wouldn't be like actually happening, because I think what needs to actually end up happening is she just gets away with it. Yeah. She's rich.
It could be the ironic thing is when she gets old, she's like, yeah, I know the tricks, whatever. And we end with her picking out her casket. That would be like the real dark ending.
The darkest ending, she picks out her casket and she just picks a box.
Yeah. That's a funny idea.
Like the final scene of the show is that she's trying to buy her casket and the guy's trying to convince her to get the really expensive one, and she's just like, no, I want the wood box.
Yeah, she's too smart for all the tricks of the trade. And he's like, you are a legend in the funeral home business. Like, you used to own this place right here. She's like, yeah, I remember. And that's just
Well-
like the really demented like little story of capitalists always win and they fuck you till you're dead. Songs, we gotta think of some songs. Like her opening number has to be super idealistic, like I'm ready to live or something like that.
It could, yeah, which would be like an ironic, because we want it to be somewhat ironic with the fact that she's about to work in death,
Yes.
like specifically.
Like making money off the death and horror of other people. Yeah. The other thing that she could be doing, this could be real fucked up. She could just be reusing caskets and cremating them on the side and just telling them, oh no, they're totally in there.
I would not be shocked if there's news stories of that.
They do. They'll just be like, oh fuck, this is actually a thing that happened in Michigan, because Michigan's real fucked up about this. They would just take your loved one's body, sell their organs and pieces on the black market, and then just give you a bunch of random ashes in an urn. They did that.
Oh my god.
No, I got that wrong. They just buried them in their backyard. They just buried the body in their backyard and then gave you random like fire ash in an urn.
Like, yeah. Well, that's the thing though. It's a for-profit business. That's what they're there for. They're not there to comfort you or to provide you with excellent service. They're there to make their own wallet bigger.
Yeah, like the dead person's really gonna care how comfortable his casket is.
Well, so Izzy gets a song at the beginning that's about how she can't wait to start living or something like that.
Yeah, I'm ready to live my life. And then she's like immediately like thrown off. She can't get jobs anywhere because what can you do with a BA in English?
Yeah, and then
Uncle
the
Jay.
the uncle calls, which I think we could stick with like a death deity like type name for him. Don't know exactly what wouldn't be too on the nose, but
I don't know. I'm sticking with Uncle Jay because that feels like the type of character he is.
sure, we can work with that.
He's got like this real like shady side, and basically it's a two-hander with these two characters and a bunch of like random people, elderly, just revolving in throughout.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a two-person show with a couple like side characters.
What would be? There's like some real fucked up places this could go. Like if you go, it depends on how dark. Like, are we going like real extreme, like goofier, kind of like fantastical like stuff, or are we gonna be like real like necrophilia type shit?
No, we're not going there.
Yeah, I
want it to be. I want it to be specifically a satire of the business side of things,
Yes.
not of the like other messed up stuff that could happen in the business.
Which does happen. It's not what could happen, it's what does happen.
Yeah, but I don't want to go there.
Yeah, I don't want to go there either.
But I do think, I mean, it's already pretty messed up what we're doing, and I think the satire needs to be pretty pointed.
Yes, I think if we leave any room for embellishment, it could really fall apart. But I think it needs to be like about capitalism and capitalizing on death.
Well, yeah, and that's specifically what it needs to be about. And so we could have her sing a song. Do we want to name the song? We don't really. I don't really care about this song.
Yeah, and we need the song where she has the transfer over for like she has like this moment where she has all these ideas on how she can better the business, and then she has like a conscious moral dilemma, and then she chooses to go like into the dark recesses of her choices.
Yeah. Uncle Jay will have a song about the business of death or something like that.
Yeah, like probably something called like Death and Taxes. Like I feel like that kind of is like a good capitalism like meme that people say, but this one is literally it.
Death and taxes, and it's easier to take gold off a corpse or something like that.
Like real messed up lines where it's just like, these are bodies that don't exist anymore, but they make us so much money.
Yeah. Then we'll have...
And he's like, you keep thinking of them as people. They're not people when they're dead.
Then we'll have like back-to-back numbers where she's like selling to older folks who come in who are grieving. And they're like very upset and like they have like sad numbers, and then she kind of just has these like... I don't even know how to describe what I'd
say like
picturing.
jaunty like pitch numbers. I'm imagining this as like a waltz where she's like going from couple to couple, like being like, like putting on the face like, I'm sorry for your loss. She seemed like such a girl, but you know what she really deserves? Some pink little furls in the side of this, and we need some roses. Come on, you can splurge for some roses. You know that she loved them.
Oh, she would have loved those roses. Yeah, no, that's great. That's good. Like, you want her, and then you can kind of stop it occasionally to have one of the other people sing like a really
Sad, like
melancholy, but that's like them agreeing to buy all the stuff, whereas her song to sell all of it is like this, probably in a minor key, but kind of upbeat sounding.
Like jaunty, kind of like a sailor's tone, where it's kind of like minor-y key, but very bouncy.
Yeah, and she's just like selling all this stuff with the tone of consoling them, essentially.
Yeah, but we all kind of can gather she's full of shit. And, like, her uncle just cannot keep up with how good she's doing. And a lot of it has to do with, like, she's a younger girl that is, like, you don't usually get the red flags up with a younger female trying to sell you stuff. Which,
true, and he's just an older gentleman at this point, and he's looking for someone to replace him in a way.
Yeah. And we kind of have to watch her grow up and delusion herself.
So where do we
over
get
many
where
years
she pushes
here.
over the top? We need that song.
I have this idea for a song or a scene where she has like the opportunity to save someone's life, an older person, and chooses not to for the monetary value.
It has to be a little bit later in the show, I think, but I do kind of like that idea. It has to be something where she's not actively doing anything wrong by not saving them, but she could easily have done more. I don't know, but that could be like the final choice, you know, like this is it. She's completely corrupted, basically.
Okay, here's my pitch. She has this very old lady. She's like the town rich person, all right?
Yeah.
Like the town baroness. And somehow, this is actually a really fucked up premise. Maybe not for this one, but I kind of like it as an idea. She like sprays water all over the steps and brings her in, and she gets her to agree like, upon my death, this will be purchased. This most expensive casket, most expensive funeral that the world will ever see. This will put your funeral home on the map. And then she just fucking sprays water all over her fucking stairway. The old woman slips and breaks her neck, and she just kind of sits there and waits for it to stop hearing her.
Honestly, I could see that working. I don't think...
I think that's her moment of like actually like deciding, yep, I'm dedicating to this.
I think with it being a satire,
yes,
what we can work with it is like earlier on in the show, it's showing like this is like the bad stuff that actually happens in this industry. And then we kind of had the second act be like she becomes almost like a killer in her own right.
Yes.
To kind of like push it that one step further where it's like, this is metaphorically what this industry is like, you know?
In theory, this is how bad it could be if someone had the worst case scenario intentions.
Well, not how bad it could be, but like, this is what it does to people, you know? Yeah. So obviously this is a pretty politically charged show. We obviously have our opinions. We are very explicitly saying what we think about the funeral industry here.
You know what? We're gonna get an angry letter from a funeral home owner. You know what? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, you're supposed to not make money off of the death of others.
You know what? Like I'm sick of GoFundMe's popping up every time anyone I know dies to pay for their funeral expenses.
Well, yeah, and it's not their fault. It's the funeral homes for charging so much for everything.
So stupid. I hate the fact that we monetize our death. Can't people just literally rest in peace?
Well, they can. Their families can't, though.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Same with like This is like an extension of like the Medicare for all crap.
Well, yeah, it's like medical insurance monetizing. Like you could do basically the same exact show that we're talking about here with like a health insurance agent. You know?
You could really do that. Yeah, it would be a really good version of this. But who do you think would compose this, Andrew?
Oh, boy. Have we watched any shows that are like really pointed satire before?
I think Urinetown is the closest.
Urinetown?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Urinetown, honestly, I don't think is pointed enough. Like, yes, it's satire, but I almost feel like it's too vague to really even be called satire.
We haven't done this show yet. We're doing it in June for Pride Month. A Strange Loop. by Michael R. Jackson is a very pointed, angry musical that has a lot to say about like the current America and like how Black people are represented and how they're supposed to act and how parents treat them. I think he would be amazing for this, Michael R. Jackson. So he'd be my choice.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'd want. And honestly, I think it's a bit odd that there's not more satire type shows on. I feel like musicals are a really good way to have that heightened reality that you kind of need to do a proper satire.
Right.
So
whereas when in films things come off a little too literal.
Yeah. Well, I think for this type of show, the best movie that I've ever seen for this type of thing is oh my goodness,
Happiness.
Sorry to bother you. Have you seen Sorry to Bother You?
I did. I love that movie.
Really, really good. But the way they do the heightened reality of like, it's like real but not real. But I feel like musicals do that almost by default. You know,
you're
like,
already in a different world. You just kind of accept what you're seeing.
Yeah, so I feel like it's perfect for this type of satire, and I never see it done. At least not that I've seen.
I think Reefer Madness the musical is close, but it's still a little too goofy.
Yeah, well, people talk about parody and satire as if they're the same thing, and I feel like
very different.
Yeah, parody is when you like something and you're kind of joking along with it, whereas satire is when you're like hate something and you are trying to rip it down from the inside, essentially.
Take it down a notch, basically.
Take it down a notch, but
or point a finger.
Yeah, so I'd really like to see something like this. Actually,
I want this I want this musical.
To be fully
even
honest,
a movie. This would be cool.
Like, yeah, no, the funeral industry needs to be more closely examined. I'm sure there are movies that do it, but
Bernie is the only one that's coming to mind, and that's not even really about that.
No, and Bernie doesn't really even touch on it. In fact, it kind of portrays it in a positive light because Bernie is shown as like being the friend of all the older residents and everything. So
Bernie was a monster, in all honesty.
I mean, he shot an old woman. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Maybe don't shoot an old woman.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he was not a great guy.
Yeah, that movie likes to try to convince you that she is.
If the movie does anything, it convinces you that
Jack Black should be in The Music Man.
Jack Black should be in The Music Man, and that old woman was kind of mean, maybe, but that still doesn't justify shooting her.
How dare a woman be mean? She deserves to be murdered.
Yeah, so like, I like the movie Bernie, but yeah, it's like it's not.
The message is rough.
The message is not totally accurate.
All right, Andrew, how do you think Ben Brantley would react to this?
I don't actually know.
I think he'd actually like this is the thing. I think he'd actually appreciate the satire of this.
I think it kind of depends on his opinions of the topic, which I think is a lot of times what satire kind of relies on. Like, satire doesn't work if you disagree with it. You know?
What do you think is the best piece of satire like the last 10 years, aside from Sorry to Bother You?
Oh, boy. I don't really know. What do you think? I mean, The Boys is pretty good. Like, as a TV show, I don't know if you've seen that all the way through.
I've seen halfway through season 2.
I mean, I think that's a pretty decent satire of superhero stuff. Though sometimes sometimes it's not pointed enough at the superhero genre, I feel like, but
I mean, you got things like Get Out and Jojo Rabbit, which are kind of approaching satire.
Jojo Rabbit is very good, but I wouldn't call it a satire because it's not like pointed at anything other than just the idea of, I guess it's the idea of fascism, but
yeah,
I don't know if it's pointed enough, you know? You got stuff like Starship Troopers, but that's a bit older, and I don't think that's a very effective satire, to be honest with you, because I think it's not pointed enough, again, because people don't even recognize that it's satire sometimes.
What if, like, shit like The Onion, like, anytime there's a school shooting and they post, like, you know, nothing could have been done to stop this as only country where this happens every day.
Well, The Onion's not a movie.
I know. But I'm, like, thinking, like, what is satire nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, The Onion absolutely has some very good satire.
What a mess. Yeah. What a fizzle down of this episode, but I think we had a great discussion. I kind of want to see this musical happen. Or at least someone turn this into a movie. I'd watch it like 1,000 times. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll make this into a movie.
I mean, there's a concept here that could definitely work. It would be a unsavory watch, but not everything needs to make you feel good.
You know what? I think, like all media, you kind of can't just always be eating candy. You can't only watch Marvel movies. You gotta throw some vegetables in there that make you not always the most comfortable, but you're better off and your brain works better because of it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what happens to people that only watch Marvel movies. They become rage nerds online that talk about how feminism bad or something. Like,
Marvel, more like
you gotta put some variety in your diet here.
Yeah. And no, The Boys does not count as like a variety in your diet. Stop that.
Especially when you don't even view it as a satire, you just are like, more superhero stuff, sick.
Yeah, it's like the people that watched the most recent Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and they're like, John Walker is the coolest character ever. John Walker is so cool. People are stupid, Andrew.
Jeez, I still can't hear you. What is going on here? I cannot hear
All right,
you, Jess.
we'll see you next time on Make Me a Musical.